Seabiscuit, Chapter 2, The Lone Plainsman. Tom Smith was the horseman who would eventually become Seabiscuit's trainer. He earned him the nickname Silent Tom since he preferred being with horses over talking to people. By 1935, Smith was working at a Mexican racetrack. He slept on a cot in the horse stall. Tom wanted to be close to his horses. He talked so little that people made up rumors about his past. Smith looked older than his 56 years. It seemed like he was at the end of his career. His training stable of horses didn't hold much promise. Smith was born with a remarkable talent for horses. He was so devoted to horses that he felt incomplete without one. By age 13, he was already a skilled horse breaker. By the early 1900s, Smith was 20 and needed a job. He was hired as a ranch foreman and worked there for the next 20 years. He liked caring for his horses better than being with people. He did have a wife and son. By 1921, the automobile was changing the character of the West, and the ranch was sold. Being around horses was essential to Smith's life. He found a job training horses for small-time racing in Wyoming. Smith's winning horses were noticed by the famous 10-ton Irwin. Irwin was the flashy, demanding owner of the Wild West show and racing stable. Both his personality and size were huge. He weighed over 400 pounds. Irwin was hard on his horses. Smith did his best to care for them and fix their injuries. Smith figured out that the horses who broke from the start fastest would win. He devised ways of teaching horses to make the fastest break possible. This would later be invaluable to his career. The Depression made it hard for Irwin to make money. Smith traded his salary for an injured horse, Knighthood, who once had a good reputation. Smith disappeared for months and rehabilitated his horse. When they returned, Knighthood won his race. Irwin rehired Smith to train his horses. Smith's win record was amazing. He was known for his mystical connection to horses. He had one rule: learn your horse. Once you penetrate his mind and heart, you can work wonders. After Irwin died in an accident, Smith went out on his own. He was given another lame horse with a strong past. Smith rehabilitated the horse, and it became a winner too. Smith moved his stable to Tijuana in 1934. Smith struggled to make ends meet. He lived in a horse stall with another trainer. That trainer worked for Charles Howard's best friend, Gianni. Gianni noticed how Smith's horses were thriving. He knew Howard was looking for a trainer and introduced him to Smith. They were very different men. Howard was driven by image, while Smith was the solitary, lone plainsman. Howard saw Smith's potential and followed his instincts. He hired Smith. Chapter 3, Mean, Restive, and Ragged. Tom Smith finally earned a good salary as Howard's trainer. He changed his tattered looks. He bought some neat gray suits and a fedora hat. He worked with Howard's stable for a year in private. When he returned to Santa Anita, his unusual training practices made people curious. No one had seen a trainer like Smith before. Smith used an alarm clock to train a horse to bolt out of the gate at the sound of a bell. His practices worked, and his horses started to win. In fact, the horses trained with the alarm clock won as a long shot, and they enjoyed a record payoff. Howard and Smith had different personalities, but they came to an understanding. Howard didn't interfere with Smith's training practices. Smith put up with Howard's efforts to stay in the public eye. Howard wanted to increase his win record. In June 1936, he sent Smith off to the East Coast to find a bargain horse whose talents had been overlooked. Smith looked at hundreds of cheap horses before finding the right choice. Smith met a horse that looked him in the eye with spirit. He learned that the horse had famous ancestors, Man o' War and Hardtack. Both were known for being tall, sleek, and fast. This horse didn't have their good looks. His record didn't reflect his ancestors' success. He had, however, run more races already than most horses do in their entire career. Smith watched this horse carefully. He noted a special quality in intelligent eyes. Perhaps Smith was the first to notice that this horse had heart. The horse was Seabiscuit. Smith predicted that he'd meet him again. Seabiscuit was under the care of Fidmanson's, probably the most famous and successful horse trainer in the US, despite his horrible arthritis. Fitzmanson was probably the only man that Smith regarded in awe. Fitzmanson also knew Seabiscuit's ancestors, who both displayed a terrible temper and rages. Hardtack sired two identical colts, Grog and Seabiscuit. They were inseparable their first year. They had no resemblance to their forebears. They were small, shaggy, and awkward, but they didn't inherit the bad temper either. Seabiscuit was easygoing and loved to sleep for hours. He also seemed very slow. At first, Fitzsimonson thought that Seabiscuit's prospects as a racing horse were poor, but then he noticed that he wasn't even breaking a sweat during workouts. He wondered if the horse was bluffing. He let his trainer use the whip on Seabiscuit and discovered his fast speed. Fitzsimmons decided that Seabiscuit was really lazy and needed a rigorous training schedule to get into shape. Seabiscuit's performance was very erratic. He showed promise on some races and looked horrible during others. Seabiscuit started to show signs of burnout due to intense training and race schedule. Fitzsimmons had a big stable and was focused on his best winners. He didn't have the time to devote his attention to Seabiscuit. The owners wanted to sell him, but no one took him in any of the claiming races. In August of 1936, Marcella and Charles Howard happened to notice Seabiscuit in a race. They had a feeling about him and asked Smith to check him out. Smith recognized him right away. He noticed Seabiscuit's overworked condition, but saw something more as well. Smith was positive that he could improve Seabiscuit and told Howard to get me that horse. Howard had already fallen for the horse too, but was still a cautious businessman. He had a vet check out Seabiscuit. The vet had questions about the condition of his left foreleg. When Seabiscuit won his next race, Howard agreed to buy him for $8,000. Watching that race, Howard felt the horse had grit. He knew it would be hard to rebuild the horse, both physically and mentally, but knew that Seabiscuit already had a big heart. So in August of 1936, Seabiscuit left one of the country's best known stables and joined the Howard stable. Smith felt that Seabiscuit would become famous. His next job was to find the right jockey. Okay, let's go to questions. Number 1, Chapter 2 starts out describing Tom Smith as more comfortable with horses than with people. Circle other words that best describe him: outgoing, private, solitary, quiet, excitable, dedicated, non-social, talkative, jokester. Number 2, Tom Smith was born with a prodigy's intuitive understanding of the horse. Have you ever known someone who was truly gifted with animals? Never. One, a couple, several, many, myself. Number 3, Tom Smith ended up working for 10-ton Irwin, who ran a Wild West show and horse races. Have you ever met a character like Irwin? Never. One, a couple, several, many, myself. Number 4, Smith's life was dedicated to horses. He said, learn your horse. Each one is an individual. And once you penetrate his mind and heart, you can often work wonders. How much of a horseman are you? Not at all. Somewhat. Very skilled. Number 5, Smith met Charles Howard through a mutual acquaintance. Howard hired Smith to train his horses. How similar were their personalities? Not at all. Somewhat. Very similar. Number 6, what did people initially think of Tom Smith's training practices? Circle all that apply. Bizarre, conservative, cruel, unusual, innovative, old-fashioned. Number 7, Seabiscuit came from an impressive line of racehorses. What were Seabiscuit's physical characteristics like? Circle all that apply. Sleek, tall, awkward, bent knee, graceful, stunted. Number 8, Man o' War, War Relic, and Hardtack were Seabiscuit's forebears. What type of character did they all display? Circle all that apply. Docile, uncontrollable, man-eaters, gentle, easygoing, raging rogues. Number 9, Fitzsimmons was considered one of the best trainers in the country, yet Tom Smith thought he could improve Seabiscuit. What did Tom Smith see? Circle all that apply. Top speed, good form, great heart, intelligence, consistency. Number 10, Smith and Howard decided to take a chance on Seabiscuit. Have you ever taken your chances with a long shot? Gambling, job, vacation, investment, friend, etc.? Never. Once, couple times, several times, many times. Number 1, why was Tom Smith called the Lone Plainsman? Describe his personality. What did other people think of him? Which story did you find most interesting about Smith? How does his personality compare to yours? Number 2, who was Tenton Irwin? Describe his personality. Did you find him charming or boorish? Have you ever met anyone like Irwin in your life? Why did Smith want to trade wages for knighthood? Have you ever had to work for someone like Irwin? Number 3, describe the personality differences between Howard and Smith. Have you ever had a partner or friend that was very different from you in personality? Describe the pros and cons of that friendship. What made Howard and Smith both take a chance on Seabiscuit? Describe a time you took a chance on a long shot. Number 4, describe the personality of Seabiscuit's forebears. How did Seabiscuit compare in terms of temperament and physical characteristics? What examples in Chapter 2 revealed Seabiscuit's intelligence? Or share your favorite part of Chapter 2 or 3. Number 1, who did Tom Smith prefer the most, people or horses? Use keywords to write your answer or draw a picture. What type of show did Tenton Irwin run? Use keywords to describe the show or draw a picture of the show. Number 3, what did Smith use to train a filly to jump fast out of the starting block? Use keywords to describe this object or draw a picture. Number 4, what was your favorite part of chapters 2 and 3? Use keywords to describe your favorite part or draw a picture.